All right, YouTube, this is a quick video on Toyota steering rack boot clamps. And this is specific to a 100 series Landcruiser. And if anybody is watching this video, my guess is you've probably been struggling with these boot clamps and you've gone to searching YouTube for videos, or I hate mud, and hopefully you found this. So I think this is applicable to, the Sequoia and Tacomas, because I think these boot clamps are all the same for Toyota. However, I will say it's specific to the 100 series Landcruiser because there is very little access to the steering rack and the inner portion of the boot itself. So I do have a boot here. It's brand new. I'm not going to take it out of its package. I actually had a partner to this boot clamp, but I did replace it because the boot clamp on my 2001 Landcruiser had a small tear in it, and a little bit of grease was kind of weeping out. There was no transmission or steering fluid, but there was a little bit of grease, and I thought better to just replace the whole thing. But as I did, I wanted to replace it as it came from the factory, and this was definitely a boot clamp and a boot that was placed on the factory. So I did buy the new clamp, and there is the clamp part number. And this is actually the boot clamp that I had taken off. And what you'll find is that these clamps, when they're installed at the factory, are oriented at, I would say, 9 p.m. on the left-hand side or the driver's side, and 3 p.m. On the passenger side or the right-hand side. So they're oriented where the clip is facing the front of the vehicle. Okay, so there is a video by Me, and he shows how to kind of squeeze the 2 points on the clamp and then essentially flip the this portion off to kind of release the clamp itself. So it's pretty easy to get these off because they're stationary. They're held on tight. And getting them off is relatively straightforward. Putting them on, however, is a much different story, and I probably spent about a good 3 hours in bits and pieces over a couple of days. I wasn't in a hurry. I didn't need my truck, so I was just more of treating this as a puzzle and trying to figure it out. But taking it off, I was able to use a long needle nose pliers. I have a 14-inch straight needle nose pliers. But getting it back on, I think that the challenging thing was, number one, the access. Number two, the needle nose pliers just didn't work. And I'm not a mechanic, so I'm sure a mechanic can get them to work. But I tried 45-degree needle nose pliers. I tried straight needle nose pliers. I had 11-inch. I had 14-inch. And it's just misleading because if you look at this clamp and you start getting it aligned, and let me see if I can do this here, holding my phone in one hand. But the challenge is that getting it to here just before it wants to click in isn't that hard. It's once you want to move it from maybe that last 1/4 inch to catch in that clip there, it becomes much more difficult. It's about, one of the things where like 5% of the movement takes about 95% of the effort. And I got really, really close about a dozen times with just needle nose. And so, a couple of times I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get it to clip. And the thing you have to be careful with is, because this is aluminum, it will bend. So if you're applying pressure and it starts catching on something, it's catching on the bottom here, but it'll catch in different spots. And, these little tabs will start to bend on you, as well as this whole clip area can also bend. So you have to be very careful. If you have an unsuccessful try, you want to take it off and make sure that you've gotten it straight. So it's just a little tricky. And again, this is the one that I had removed off my truck. Okay, so how did I get it on? So real quick, I'll show you how I got it on, and hopefully this will work for you too. Just editor's note here, I had tried this early on in the process, and I went back to the needle nose pliers again because I was so certain that I was that close and I was going to get it. But after about a dozen tries of getting about this close with it and failing, I realized I needed to take a different tack. So what I had done, and let me put the camera down here for a second. And I'll try to explain exactly what I want to do here. But what you want to do is you want to have the orientation of this clip, of where this thing needs to clip together. And so let me get it to you this way. So this clip, you want this at about 6 o'clock, and you want this tab here at about 7 o'clock, okay? And you want to bring this piece in here clockwise, okay? This is what I found to be most effective. Now, when you're doing this, and I'm right-handed, I can come up over the boot, and this is, I'm working off my back. I have my truck up on a jack stand, and I can come up over the boot, and I don't have to bother with this tab, and I can just get it pinched together. And then what I did was I took a hose clamp, and I was able to fit the hose clamp right in where I needed it to go and catch. And so once I was able to catch that, I was kind of golden. But what I was also able to do is, because these hose clamps start to lock, I'm also, and just keep in mind, I'm looking straight up underneath at this thing guiding in. I can use a screwdriver just to make sure that that spring is guiding in straight. Because what happens is if it's not guiding it straight, it's going to catch on something and you're going to bend this whole unit. So, like I say, I tried these hose clamps earlier. I have a whole set of them from when I did the timing belt, but what had happened was I probably looked at the wrong pair, or I didn't think it through, or I was just still confident that I was going to be able to get it with the needle nose pliers. And then, eventually I took this out. I was re-straightening the clip, and then I took my hose clamps out, and I was able to get the right setting on the hose clamp so I could come up underneath, catch it, and then just use a screwdriver just to make sure that this part guided straight in to the clip. And then I was able to just clip it into place, and everything latched, and I was good to go. Hopefully that helps. Thank you very much.